Bun găsit, stimați utilizatori ai portalului de știri nordnews.md. Eu sunt Nicoleta Pânzaru și vă invit să urmăriți o nouă ediție a emisiunii Nord News Live. De această dată o am în calitate de invitată pe Ambasadoarea Suediei în Republica Moldova, Katarina Fried. Vom discuta împreună cu Excelența Sa despre relațiile diplomatice dintre Republica Moldova și Suedia, dar și procesul de europenizare a țării noastre. Menționăm că acest interviu va fi moderat în limba engleză. Your Excellency, good afternoon and thank you for accepting our invitation for today's interview.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So, Your Excellency, it has been a year since you are the ambassador of Sweden in the Republic of Moldova. How would you describe this period spent in our country? What did you impress the most in the Republic of Moldova since 2021?
Well, as you said, I've been here a little bit more than 1 year. I arrived in August, September last year. And at that time, I think we had the first thing that struck me was the energy and the optimism. You had a newly elected government, you had a very ambitious reform agenda just being launched. And over the year then we've seen a number of challenging events happening to the country. First we had the energy crisis, then COVID returned with more strength, and then we had, of course, the horrible aggression from Russia on Ukraine, and then that would of course then trigger this further, the second energy crisis, as well as inflation and the economic crisis. So it's been quite a turbulent year, I think, for Moldova, and then for me coming here personally. But there has been so many things to be impressed about here in Moldova. Not to say the least how you reacted to the refugee crisis, how Moldova, or from the government and president down to the citizens, opened their homes for the refugees coming, and really putting the Moldovan hospitality on the map. And I do so enjoy the new slogan, and I think it's so true: a small country with a big heart. I don't think we can say it enough, even if it's been repeated a lot already. It's definitely true. But that's not the only thing that I've been impressed by. After that, you really came together for the process for the candidate stature to the EU, and you succeeded. And I think it's remarkable what this country can do with quite, I mean, still not so many people, but when you work together and when you have set your mind to something, you can succeed with anything. I'm sure of that.
Thank you so much. We are honored to hear any important information from Your Excellency. Further, we want to talk to you about the diplomatic relationship between Sweden and Republic of Moldova. As far as I know, this relationship began since 1992. By your opinion, what are the most important projects which were implemented in Republic of Moldova with the Sweden support in the field of economic, social, or any other important fields from our country?
No, as I said, we have had, as you said, diplomatic relations for 30 years now. We also have had the presence here in Chisinau from our development cooperation agency SIDA for 20 years this year, and we are been engaged in various projects during this time, of course. Our work is guided by a regional strategy that is divided up in 4 areas where we are focusing our work. It's on one area is covering human rights, rule of law, democracy, that kind of things, and gender equality. Then we have the area of environment and climate resilience. We're also working with economic integration, and we have a new area working on peaceful society and resilient societies. So within those, it would be very difficult to find 1 or 2 projects to mention for you as the most key project. I think they are equally important. They are reinforcing each other and integrated, and you need to see that there are so many synergies between these various projects that I hope benefits to the Moldovan societies and the Moldovan citizens. So I wouldn't be able to pick one, unfortunately.
But we hope that in the future there are going to be more projects implemented which are going to make Moldovians' life better with the support of Sweden country here in the Republic of Moldova. Your Excellency, further I would like to talk about the recycle system which are very popular in the Sweden. Swedish Kingdom recycles 90.9% of plastic products. Meanwhile, at the same time, Republic of Moldova recycle only 1%, unfortunately. Are there any projects which can put in functionality national recycle system for Republic of Moldova in order to recycle more in our country, maybe?
Oh, I think we are already doing a lot. Sweden is one of the major sponsors behind a project called E5P. The 5 E's, unfortunately, I don't know by heart, but it's definitely focusing on energy efficiencies and waste management as well. And through that, we are working with the Moldovan waste management recycling processes. We're also working through UNDP on waste management on local level and on other issues. I think for me, waste management is key. I've been out in some of the communities here. I've seen the dumps, the illegal dumps, and I think it's important that we try to help each other to address this. And this is really starting on an individual level. This is something that every Moldovan has to do to ensure that we have a clean environment. And I think, for instance, the cleanup days that we have been engaging is one way of making awareness of this issue. So we are very happy to engage in that. And we are working with a number of environmental areas to see how to help with support, coming from policies and strategy to actually providing bins to communities that are needing it through UNDP. So there's definitely a lot of things to do, but if everyone wants to set their mind to it, it's also something that can be done, which is good. It's something that every individual can decide upon on how they would like to contribute to a cleaner environment.
We hope that maybe in 3-5 years or 10 years, Moldova is going to be a cleaner country with the support of Sweden also. Sweden also is a very powerful partner for the Republic of Moldova for our country's development. Here I talk about that during her official visit in the Republic of Moldova, Sweden Minister of International Cooperation for Development, Matilda Ernkrans, if I'm spelling it correctly, informed about the creation of development strategy for 7 years for Republic of Moldova, which are going to prioritize objectives as human rights, democracy, rule of law, gender equality. What are the results of these strategies, Your Excellency?
This strategy was decided just 1 year ago and was launched then in the beginning of the year. So I think it's a little bit early to say any results from this particular strategy. It is, as you say, 7 years, and we are now in the process of implementing it and seeing what would be the way forward. But it's very similar to the strategy that we had before, and the areas are very similar. So I think that if you go around in Moldova, you might notice that there are some Swedish signs on things around the country that we have been working on and supporting. So I will not be able perhaps to present one specific result, but I think that there are many of them, ranging from when you say coming to the support of the reform ambitions to human rights, democracy, supporting the media, going over then to the environmental side, as well as gender equality. We are trying to be very active in that field as well. And also then promotion of, for instance, small and medium enterprises and trying to get them more connected with the European market and so forth going.
Your Excellency, but we now talk in this conversation about the biggest impact of Sweden in the Republic of Moldova, but people always ask themselves why Sweden always helps Republic of Moldova. If you can answer them, why is Sweden interested to invest in such a small country as our country?
In Sweden we have a long tradition of engaging in international cooperation. We feel that global problems needs global solutions and where we could actually help. Global problems, I mean, and even if you look at local problems, they can very easily become regional problems and then global problems, and then there will be our problems as well. So for us it's kind of natural to also set aside some of our taxpayers' money to go to international cooperation. And then of course we are to invest those money. Moldova has been a long-standing partner. As I said, it's 20 years since we started an office here. We regard you as a very close friend of ours, a member of the European family, and I think we should support friends. Well, I have to say that there is no really vested interest in this. We really want to see Moldova to be a prosperous country. I think that that is also a benefit for Sweden as part of the European family.
Good to know about this. Further, I would like to talk about the Istanbul Convention that entered into force in Republic of Moldova on 1st May of 2022. Here I want to ask you, how important is the adoption of this kind of document for a country which wants to consolidate the democracy and also to end violence against women and to promote zero tolerance towards discrimination?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Moldova to taking the step to ratify this convention, and that is also entered into force, and really also congratulate everybody who's been engaged in this process and also continue to be engaged now in the even more important process of implementing the convention's provisions. I think that this is a very important political signal that you take these issues seriously when you ratify a convention like that the government has responsibilities to act and intervene, and they have the responsibility to set up systems that can act and support victims of violence. So the political signal is ratifying. Now the real truth comes to implementation and ensuring that we're also fulfilling the provisions. This kind of gives a roadmap on what to do to strengthen the system and the institutions that you have here in Moldova working with these issues going forward. So for me it's a milestone, but the important thing is how it's going to be implemented.
Mrs. Fried, I want to remain at this subject about the violence in our country, because if we analyze the situation regarding violence or about violence in Republic of Moldova, we can make a conclusion that women from our country are the most frequent victims of domestic violence. Unfortunately, only in 2021, as a result of registered family violence crimes, 648 people have suffered, and 68% of them are women, unfortunately again. What kinds of projects or collaboration are between Swedish Embassy and Republic of Moldova in order to minimize family violations against women?
First of all, I'd like to point out that this is unfortunately not a problem just relating to Moldova. This is happening in my country, and it's awful to see how many women are suffering from violence against women and girls. So I think we have a lot of joint experiences that we need to draw on to see how we can address this. Here in Moldova, we are working very closely, for instance, with UN Women, as well as the Coalition Against Violence Against Women. I think it's important that you have that kind of coalitions that draws together many actors to address these issues, because it's a cross-societal problem, and there is not one single institution that can solve it on their own. There needs to be an intersectional and multisectoral response to address these issues. So we are working through UN Women, we are working through this coalition, we are working through other partners trying to assist with the means we have. It's ranging from awareness raising about these issues, it's raising about strengthening the institutions that are needs to be there for the people that are subjected to this kind of violence. It's about also breaking vicious economical cycles, like trying to find ways for empowering women that are in these situations, so they have actually the financial means to get themselves out of the situation and do not have to be dependent on someone who's abusing them. So the various means that we are trying to find together with partners the best way to do this, but it really needs a whole of society approach to address.
But in Sweden, the situation is the same as bad as in the Republic of Moldova, if we talk about violence or not?
I would say that it's difficult to compare figures. I think that the situation, the occurrences might be similar, but maybe we have come a little bit further with building institutions on how to then react and how to try to prevent and how to break the cycles. But that the phenomena exists in my country, that's very true.
Let's talk about more positive subjects, about women in politics. Your Excellency, Sweden have achieved high levels of women participation in political life, which is a good point. Also achieving a high level of well-being. We also observed and know also that the most important state position in Republic of Moldova are occupied by the women's, which is also a good point. Can you say us why women enter into politics? Because it is fashionable, or because they have their principles to demonstrate to people that they can be empowering too as men?
First of all, I have to say that it's a little bit odd to hear the question whether... I don't wonder whether you would direct that question to a man in a similar fashion, whether it was fashionable if you like to go and express your views. So that says a little bit about the problem when it comes to this issue. For me, a politician is a person who has a vision, who has ideas that they would like to contribute with, and have a feeling of where they would like the country or the local community go, and that they would like to engage to improve the situation in a way that they have in mind. It could be, of course, various political directions. And I don't think that is something that is entitled to men to have. I think women has equally good ideas and visions and leadership, and they should step forward and present them, and we should implement them as well. I find the situation today is more like, I don't think anyone would go into politics because it's fashionable. I actually say that it's rather because I would be very impressed because it's so hard to be a politician today. You have social media, you have the hate speech that are directed, in particular perhaps against female politicians, when they try to step forward and present their ideas, which is, I think, is a grave concern. So we need to address that as well and try to see them for who they are and what they are saying, and not for what kind of gender they are having. So I would say, why not? And if you have the ideas, and if you have the vision, and if you appear to take that kind of leadership role, you should go for it, because we need you, and we need all the various perspectives, not only men's perspective. We have also things to come to the table, and I think the better we work together across gender, the better the result.
Sweden have achieved also a high level of happiness worldwide, also under Denmark and Norway. They are considered to be the most happiest countries in the whole world. How do you consider, does this mostly depend on the mindset the Scandinavians have, or also on the policies implemented by the state?
Well, I think we'll have to look a little bit on how they measure this happiness index, and I think they look very much at the institutional setup, actually, and perhaps not making measures on how people actually are feeling. And I think that Sweden is in no way any perfect country, but we have been working a lot on the institutional setup, on the social coverage, trying to find ways to ensure that you can have a balance between private life and your work life, to find career possibilities. The efforts we put into gender equality, I think that makes at least the life a little bit easier, so to say. And if that then results in a better result in an index like that be the case, but you shouldn't be too fixed on the figures as such. But I think investing in institutions, gender equality is a good way forward. You have stability, then people feel better.
Republica Moldova in this context occupies 62 place in the most happiest countries in the worldwide. What do you think, what kind of strategies should our country implement from Sweden, for example, to make Moldavians' lives better in our country?
Well, I think that's up to the Moldovans to decide what you actually need here in Moldova. Perhaps it is strengthening institutions, perhaps it is strengthening gender equality. I wouldn't be the right person to tell. That has worked for us. But I'm sure that you have very good ideas of what is missing, or what could be improved, or what you would like to strengthen even further.
Also, I would like to talk about the justice reform. How do you think, how important is for our country the justice reform and the fight against big corruption? What else should our officials learn from maybe Sweden officials in order to make this happen?
I am very impressed by the ambitious reform agenda covering the justice system. This is an extremely difficult task. It's not easy, and it will take time to change the system, but it is so crucial that you invest in the judicial system. If you have a judicial system that people trust and rely on and feel comfortable with, that they will actually secure justice for them, so much will follow in financial investments, the business climate, just the happiness index, I would assume, would also go up if you can feel that you can rely on the institutions. So I think it's definitely a very important priority. When it comes what you could learn from us, then again, I think it would be up to the Moldovans to pick and choose from that. We have very strong institutions traditionally, and it has been taking a lot of time to build them. So I would urge you to really continue pushing for this, but also be patient because it takes time. The judicial system is nothing you change overnight, so, but it's definitely worth it.
Mrs. Fried, Farfa, I would like to know your opinion about the historical decision that was given to Republic of Moldova. I refer to the European state candidate for our country in order to take part into the European family. At the same time as we talk to our country still have so much to do. In your opinion, can you enumerate some important objectives which Republic of Moldova have to do in order to achieve the implementation of association agreement with the European Union?
I think the association agreement is a very good roadmap ahead, of course. There's a lot of provisions that needs to be fulfilled and work on, and you also have the avis from the Commission with the 9 areas to improve. I know that the government and all the institutions are working very hard to kickstart and work on the frameworks, and then of course it will be up to the implementation. So picking one area is very difficult. As we just spoke about the legal and the justice system, that I think is very crucial to ensure that it's on track, and it's good that that is actually one of the areas that I think that we have seen a lot of progress already.
But how much Sweden wants Republic of Moldova to become a European country? Maybe Sweden has some recommendations for our country, for Republic of Moldova, in order to accelerate the process of Europeanization of our country.
I really like to congratulate Moldova to the status of a candidate country, and I'm so happy to envision having Moldova around the table in Brussels. You're already there in so many aspects. It's been a long road. You have already started this process from a number of years, and I hope that you will continue with the same steady pace. I don't think anyone really imagined what you have managed to do in 1 year. So going forward, I know that you have amazing powers, but also be patient, because it's not for certain that the Brussels procedures will be as what I would say flexible and alert as the Moldovans can be. So be patient with us. I know that you're probably going to be frustrated over the process. It's going to take a long time. There's a lot of things that needs to be solved. First getting legislation in place, and then also start working on implementation. So I wouldn't really look at things to speed up further, but rather focus on doing this right and ensure that you have as many as possible with you on this journey, because I hope you will find that it's worth it.
And it's very important for people to understand that it is not a very short process, but a very long one, but which can ensure us a very powerful future with Sweden in the European Union.
Moldova is already a member of the European family, and we are really looking forward to have you around the table with the EU also.
We are so honored to hear that, actually. As you said initially from the beginning of this interview, you represent Sweden diplomatic mission in Republic of Moldova in an uncertain period. As we talk, Republic of Moldova is facing the biggest energy crisis since the independence, and at the same time certain political parties that are guided by the Kremlin are trying to destabilize our political situation, government from Republic of Moldova. How do the officials in Stockholm analyze the things which are happening in our country?
Well, I think that the unwarranted and unprovoked aggression war of Russia against Ukraine has changed a lot in the security situation in Europe. And I think Moldova has been paying a very high prices for this, and we are very well aware, also in Stockholm, about the very difficult situation Moldova is in at the moment. This war has provoked, I mean, Moldova had its challenges even before the war, we must be honest with that, but this war has really aggravated and come up with even new crisis scenarios that we couldn't foresee before. So we are very well aware of that, and we are in this together with Moldova, and I'm certain that we will find ways out of it together as well. But we recognize the challenges, and we also see the effects that this have on the population when it comes to the inflation and the dire economic situation. And we will do what we, from our perspective, to what we can do to alleviate.
But in your view, will the Republic of Moldova face all the challenges which are happening now in our country? How do you consider?
Well, I have to say that I'm still very impressed of how you're managing these challenges, because they are not easy. And I see, I see that you are struggling with one thing after the other and still come up on your feet. So I hope that this is something that we will continue to help you with. Just showcasing that you managed to secure a candidacy role for the European Union during this crisis is a sign of how well you can do. And I think we, as both as a European country and as a member of the European Union, we will be there to help you coming through this. Together we will come through the winter, and hopefully we will be much stronger afterwards as well.
Thank you so much, because this help is very important for our government, and especially for our people, for Moldovians who need very big support in order to survive this hard winter. Also, if we remain on this subject about the war, unjustified war in Ukraine generated by the Russia, in context is also generated some very important events. For example, Sweden and Finland renounced of a neutrality statute and signed the protocol NATO. According to the Stoltenberg, it was the fastest process of integration at the alliance in the whole history. How do you think? Yes, Republic of Moldova is a neutral country, but how do you think our authorities should also refuse or renounce to these status in order to take part also into this into NATO, actually? And why all the countries who want to consolidate democracy and European values should adhere to NATO?
I think that it's should be up to every country to decide their own security policy and what kind of future they would like to have. This was the decision that we felt was best for us at this point. But it will definitely be in the hands of the Moldovan citizens and government to decide what is best for you.
And the last question for today's interview, Your Excellency, how do you see Republic of Moldova after 5 years?
Oh, I know where I would like to see Moldova, and that is post-COVID, post-war. We would like to have peace on the borders. I would like to see that Moldova that has come quite a bit on their reform processes, on their EU integration road. I like to see healthy, happy and prosperous people, where people are starting to return to Moldova as well. And I do hope I will see that, and I think if we just see the magic of what Moldova can do when they are working together, it's definitely not an impossible vision.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for today's dialogue, for today's interview. We wish you success in all the projects which are going to be implemented with the Sweden support in Republic of Moldova, and we hope to see you soon in our studio Nord News. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stimați utilizatori ai portalului de știri nordnews.md, cam atât a fost și de la această ediție a emisiunii Nord News Live. Aveți grijă de voi și ne revedem în scurt timp în studioul Nord News. La revedere!